Hi, man, peace. So throughout the course of the NBA regular season, one of the main narratives has been whether or not LeBron James was going to sign back with his current team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, or whether he was going to decide to utilize his free agency rights and possibly sign with various teams across the NBA that he and his team view to be viable candidates for a possible world championship, or who can help him elevate his status in the entertainment industry. That's where the LA Lakers come in. So there have been other teams that have been viewed as being possibilities, like the Philadelphia 76ers, even the San Antonio Spurs, the Miami Heat, and the Houston Rockets. And now, seemingly, because of the mutual struggles of both the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Rockets in the conference final round of the NBA playoffs, the question is once again resurfacing as to whether or not LeBron James may possibly decide to take his talents to the Houston Rockets. So, of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
LeBron James facing his first 0-2 hole in an Eastern Conference playoff series since 2008 when they lost to who? The Celtics. The Rockets are trying to avoid dropping the first two at home against the Warriors. Max, let's talk the decision part two. If Rockets lose to the Warriors, does this give LeBron an excuse to now go to Houston?
Well, the real question is, when the Rockets lose to the Warriors, which they most likely will, I give right now the Rockets probably about a 10% chance to win that series. But when the Rockets go down, what decisions are they going to make overall? Because Chris Paul is also a free agent, and he's also going to consider himself a max player. You're going to have James Harden, who's a max player. And then you're going to bring in LeBron James, who has stated that he's no longer going to allow himself to be shorted financially. You're going to have three max players on one team, and Clint Capella is also a free agent. So what are you going to do? Are you going to gut your entire team? That's the real question.
Yes, it does, absolutely, and I'm not just looking at it from LeBron's point of view, I'm looking at it from basketball fans' point of view. One of the issues that the NBA runs into, and I believe it's the perfect team sport, and the NBA is the most entertaining league, the whole thing, but one of the problems they run into is that the playoffs are easier to predict, says the guy, by the way, who this year didn't do a very good job, but most years, the playoffs are easier to predict than in other sports. Football and baseball are more determined by luck.
I think that the NBA is still very easy to predict. You just made very, very erroneous predictions. For whatever reason, you decided that you were going to buck the trend. You decided you were going to buck what you were seeing with your naked eyes and attempt to be a maverick in regards to your prognostications. You said that the Houston Rockets were going to meet the Toronto Raptors in the finals. Neither one of those teams over the last 2 to 3 years have shown any type of fortitude, which is what you need in the most crucial adverse situations. We all know that the Toronto Raptors, they break down when the going gets tough, and so do the Rockets. At least most of their top level guys, that being James Harden, Chris Paul, Mike D'Antoni, they suffer from mental breakdowns whenever the situation gets tough. Now we've only played one game in the Western Conference Finals, so I'm not going to come down on them too hard. And James Harden and Chris Paul have played well so far in game one. But I want to wait and see how everything turns out, because I don't think that LeBron is going to be a very good fit with them. That style of play that they currently have with Mike D'Antoni as coach pretty much necessitates that you have shooters out there on the floor. When you have three ball-oriented players out there on the floor at one time, what exactly is going to happen? We've already seen the Oklahoma City Thunder experiment blow up because they had three ball-centric players who really did not know how to distribute the basketball amongst one another. I just don't think that it's going to be a very, very viable fit for LeBron James.
Luck, the college tournament is one and done, so a lesser team can beat a better team. College football, also luck determined in many respects. The NBA, much more often, the right team wins. But since that's often obvious, in many years it's obvious, what do you do about that? Well, you need as many good, as evenly matched as possible teams at the top of the divisions, and so, or at the top of either conference. So what do we have right now? Well, let's assume for a second that the Rockets lose and the Warriors win game 2 and win in 5 games, let's say, against the Rockets and look just dominant. We all know the Celtics, when they get healthy, will be favored to come out of the East next year. Who wins, a fully loaded Celtics team next year or the Warriors? Well, that's interesting. Now things are more interesting, East-West.
That's extremely interesting next season, when the Celtics are fully loaded, whether or not they can beat the Warriors.
But but throw as many teams on that level into the mix as possible. And
yes, to provide decor, because that's pretty much all they're going to be. If LeBron were to go to the Houston Rockets, I think that they would just end up being a team that would act as if they were happy playing with one another. But somewhere down the line of the season, you're going to see a level of resentment emerge, and it's going to show on the court, especially from James Harden, because that is his city, that is his team. And I'm sure that he's not going to want some incumbent alpha like LeBron James trying to take over his territory.
it just gets more interesting. Were Houston to have won the championship, it's like if the Rockets would have won, they couldn't have signed KD. How could KD really go to the Rockets, to the Warriors, rather, if the Warriors had beaten the Cavs with 73 wins? But the Warriors lost to the Cavs. That gave KD a little opening. He joined the Warriors. The problem at that point is now it's lopsided for the Warriors. So, okay, the Celtics are coming up. The Warriors are like that. Now, if the Rockets are like that too, I wouldn't mind another super team forming. Kawhi or someone going to Philadelphia. Get as many of those level teams as possible so that when the year begins, Stephen A isn't saying, damn, the Warriors just ruined my postseason.
Well, in optimal conditions, I'm sure that the NBA would love to have 4 teams in each conference who they felt had realistic opportunities to win the NBA championship, but that's in a perfect world.
Stephen A, you're saying, whoa, at the beginning of the season, there are 3, maybe 4 teams who could take this, 2 in each conference maybe.
Yes, they'd love to get it to 4, but that's so difficult. You really want the NBA playoffs to be a crapshoot starting from the second round onward. The expectation is that the first round is pretty much going to be very predictable. I think that with all the young talent coming into the NBA, they may want to consider having a pre-playoff tournament. I think that what the NBA may want to consider is having a pre-playoff tournament where maybe you have 4 teams, 2 in each conference, play for the opportunity to play the number 1 seed or the number 1 and 2 seeds in the official first round. And it will also allow the top 2 teams in each conference to get a first round bye, get a lot of rest, very similar to the NFL playoff architecture. Just something to think about, especially with all the young talent coming into the NBA right now. I think that there are a lot of teams in the league that are playoff caliber that will not be making the playoffs. I think that you can make the case that the 9th and 10th seeds in each conference could have put forth the same performance that the 7th and 8th seeds did. So maybe you could have a little miniature tournament prior to the NBA playoffs while also giving the higher level seeds a chance to rest their players.
That's the best of all worlds. I think absolutely the Rockets lose, LeBron can go there. It's good for everyone.
I think that if LeBron goes to Houston or Philadelphia, it makes no difference, and I have no issue with either because I think Houston would lose to the Warriors, obviously, and that would give him an excuse to go to Houston, and we all know Philly came up short against Boston. I think the only thing that would discuss...
Well, wait a minute, Stephen A. Smith. You would have no problem with LeBron James going to the Houston Rockets because the Rockets will have lost to the Warriors, but you had a big problem with Kevin Durant going to the Warriors even though the Warriors lost to the Cavaliers. And I'm sure that people will say in the comments, well, it's different because Kevin Durant's team lost to the Warriors. Let me say this. It was very obvious throughout the season that the Warriors had targeted Kevin Durant and that he liked the fact that they targeted him because he liked their style of play. All throughout that regular season, if you paid very close attention to the games between the Warriors and the Oklahoma City Thunder, during dead ball, Steve Kerr would be there laughing and joking around with Kevin Durant. It was very obvious to me that they were going to make that acquisition. I was not surprised at all when it went down.
Disgust me is if LeBron went to Boston because we know how loaded they are. We know that they're the team in the East for the future. And to piggyback off of it and jump on their bandwagon, I think would be just as bad, if not worse, than Kevin Durant going to Golden State.
What it would be is the greatest troll job in the history of sports, him following Kyrie over to Boston.
That's how I would view Boston, LeBron going to Boston. Outside of Boston, I view Philadelphia and Houston as the same. If you go to Houston, they're second fiddle. You still have the Warriors to contend with. If you go to Philadelphia, they're second fiddle, if not lower. And they still have the Boston Celtics to contend with.
Well, I still contend that the best fit for LeBron James will be the Miami Heat. Acquire LeBron James and Paul George, it would definitely put them in the mix for an NBA championship. I'm not sure what their cap situation is like, but if they were to be able to acquire LeBron James and Paul George, they'd be right there. Because the rest of that team, filled with hard-nosed players, that can play defense and offense. They just don't have the talent to beat anybody really good.
And so that's just the way that I look at it. It's on the same level, Philadelphia or Houston. And obviously, outside shot at LA. Of course, LA might end up getting him, or it's going to be Houston or Philadelphia. But I would have the only time I would have a problem with LeBron is if he jumped on the bandwagon for the Boston Celtics. I know it ain't going to happen in Golden State, but if he jumped on the bandwagon for the Boston Celtics, that would absolutely positively disgust me.
I'm with you there. Can't go to Boston. Can't go to Boston. We agree about that. Cannot go to Boston.
I believe that Stephen A. Smith is levying this preemptive strike to let LeBron James and his team know that if you're even thinking about jumping on the Boston Celtic bandwagon and trying to ride out the rest of your career off of that young talent, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to decimate you in the media if you even think about that, because I believe that Stephen A. Smith knows that that's something that may be ruminating in LeBron James's head.
To Boston. But Philadelphia, for me, changed a little, Stephen A., versus Houston. Houston, I thought they're too stacked. I thought they could beat Golden State. The whole thing, how could he even look at Houston? But Philadelphia, even though they had Embiid and Simmons, it's not like those guys are shooters, or at least not Simmons. And it would be interesting. Like, how good would Philadelphia be? Could they compete with Golden State and Houston if LeBron were on the team? I would think yes, but the way Philadelphia showed up small in the playoffs, they have a ways to go. Ben Simmons doesn't have a shot, etc. Houston, they're shooters everywhere you look. And if LeBron James goes to the Rockets, there will be much debate between now and, or assuming that the Rockets lose Game 2 to the Warriors and we think that series is going to be done, there will be much debate between now and next year's playoffs. You know, who's the best team in the West? Who's going to come out of the West to face the Celtics? Or the winner of Celtics-Philadelphia, should Philadelphia also improve? And that would be great for basketball.
Well, here's the issue with the Philadelphia 76ers when I watch that series between them and the Boston Celtics. The Celtics just have far better team speed and coaching than the Philadelphia 76ers. They'll just wear them down over the course of a series. Now, Saric, Ilyasova, and their other forwards, Covington, they try hard, but they cannot match up with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Marcus Morris. The Boston Celtics just have way too much team speed and athleticism. Way too much for the Philadelphia 76ers. They can double down on Embiid. They can catch up to Ben Simmons. They can defend the shooters, J.J. Redick, all those guys. Philadelphia's going to have a very difficult time against the Boston Celtics until they improve their overall athleticism as a team. They're going to have to implement Markelle Fultz next year.
Think of our perception of next season if LeBron winds up in Houston right now.
Stephen A., I got a question for you, because one thing you said really piqued my interest. You threw out Boston. I hadn't heard that. You think he would ever go there with Kyrie on that team?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But I'm just saying that would be LeBron James. If he were to end up in Boston, he'd get crucified.
Yeah.
Yes, by you. That's why you put forth that preemptive strike against LeBron James to let him know, nigga, don't even think about it.
I just assumed those two would not be wanting to play together.
Yes, I mean, of course we all assume that. Of course, we're not thinking that. I'm just saying that
the day after LeBron James signs there, you can expect Kyrie Irving to get traded again. And don't put it past LeBron to try to cause some level of chaos in Kyrie Irving's life by saying, I'm going to sign with the Celtics. And of course, the Celtics will be willing to trade Kyrie. They may be willing to trade him anyway with all the assets they have. Who knows?
that's the worst case scenario. If he ends up, what I love about the situation right now is that it's entirely possible, whether it's LA, it's Philadelphia, or it's Houston. What I like about it right now is that wherever LeBron James goes, there's going to be a roadblock in either conference waiting for him. And that's what I like, as opposed to him jumping to a team where he would be the prohibitive favorite. If he jumped to a team, even if he were on Philly, you're still looking at Boston and saying, you're going to have to deal with them. And that's all I ask. Don't sit up there and stack the deck to the point where it's a prohibitive favorite like Golden State was last year once Kevin Durant had decided to go there. But don't do that to the balance of power in the NBA. Hold on, Max. The point is that what you want is you want competition. I don't just think about you winning. I think about who you beat to get there. I think about what you had to go up against in order to get to the level of prosperity that you seek. That's what I pay attention to. And that's what I'm going to pay attention to when it comes to LeBron.
because of LeBron. The Golden State Warriors with KD is an answer to LeBron. It's a response to LeBron.
No, actually, the Golden State Warriors have spotlighted KD even before they lost the finals. So what KD has done is he's made them a transcendent team. He's made them an all-time great team. They were a great collection prior to KD getting there. Now, due to the addition of Kevin Durant, they can be mentioned alongside the 86 Celtics, the 87 Lakers, the 89 Pistons, the 96 Bulls, the 01 Lakers as the greatest teams of the modern era. The 83 Sixers as well.
73 wins, not enough. LeBron still got them. So then KD, that opened the door for KD to go to Golden State, and that made it somehow okay, or more okay than had they won the championship. But now it's an arms race. You know, the elite teams somehow can't be good enough.
Well, I partially agree with you, Max Kellerman. It is an arms race, but it's also a strategic race. It's a logistics race. You can have as many weapons as you want to have, but if you don't have the right strategy, you're going to lose the battle. And I think that the Golden State Warriors are comfortable in understanding that not only do they have a high level of weaponry, but they know how to use that weaponry properly. They know how to engage in battle tactically. And I don't think that any other teams in the NBA outside the Boston Celtics understand how to use their weaponry both offensively and defensively, as well as the Golden State Warriors do.
You know, you have to constantly try to get better. So once Golden State got KD, that also makes it okay for LeBron to go to the Rockets, provided they don't win the chip, which at this moment, particularly if Golden State wins Game 2, it doesn't look like they will. But this is an arms race. How many teams can stack it up high enough to make you think before the beginning of next season they might win the chip? LeBron goes to Houston, that's one more team along with Golden State and Boston.
Stephen A., I have bad news for us.
I just had an NBA source text me telling me that LeBron, you know what, his best scenario would be Toronto. He loves that city. But obviously, everybody knows he ain't going to Toronto, even though he'd own a country, for crying out loud. He ended up doing that. But when you look at LeBron, you know, so many people have mentioned LA. They remind you he's won 3 championships.
You know, Toronto actually would not be a bad option. I'm not sure what their cap situation is, but they actually would not be a bad option.
He doesn't need to chase another. He'd have to share the ball. Both he and Ben Simmons need the ball in Philadelphia, etc., etc. L.A., Houston, Philadelphia seem to be the options that he's going to entertain most.
Yeah, and you know what's sad? Feels like Miami's out. My favorite city.
Thank you, Molly Karam. I don't understand why Miami's out of the equation. Well, I think that he would fit in very well on that team. He's been there before. He understands the upper management. He knows what they're trying to accomplish both offensively and defensively. And they have a lot of Rough Riders in regards to their ancillary players.
I don't think that one's happening anymore, guys. Still to come.
Look, even Stephen A. Smith, even he shook his head. He said, you know what, that is a possibility. Or he shook his head as if to say, I never thought about that one. But anyway, we'll see what happens with Mr. LeBron James in the offseason. In regards to their series against the Boston Celtics, they're down 0-2. I still have the Cavaliers pegged to make a comeback. Why is that? Because even though I think that the Boston Celtics are the better team, I picked Cleveland before the season. And until I actually see a team beat LeBron 4 times in 7 games in the Eastern Conference, I'm going to roll with LeBron because of what he's done in the past. So peace.